As a wargamer, I love setting out a mat and covering it with terrain for my armies to fight over. But how important really is this to my enjoyment of the game? Aren't the rules what really matter? The models themselves? In this video, we're going to take a look. The excitement I feel in the build up to a game often peaks as I lay out the scenery and prepare the battlefield. I start to imagine the units using the terrain to cover their advance or to set up fields of fire. I begin to wonder which parts of the battlefield will become strategically important as one side tries to grab an objective or launch a flank attack. In fact, just talking about it now makes me want to play a game. However, as a kid, I can remember sitting at a friend's kitchen table with a few stacks of books and Coke cans dotted around the place, shuffling around Space Marines from the RTB-01 plastic kit, and feeling very invested in the outcome of that battle. So, do I need to try and recapture some of that childlike innocence and not rely quite so much on my fancy scenery? I have a friend who, every time I show him a new piece of scenery or one of my carefully painted models, simply shrugs and looks a bit bored. He has told me on more than one occasion that he would happily play our games with coloured blobs. There are certainly war games that use simple tokens, but I've always thought of those more as board games and something a little bit different. Mind you, my hankering for scenery does make me wonder if I'm a little bit less invested in the strategy than people who play those sorts of games. I've also learned the hard way that a great looking battlefield does not guarantee a great game. My deployment of terrain in the past, perhaps focusing a little too much on the aesthetics, has sometimes led to some really skewed games. Almost always against me, I might add. As part of this video, I set up a battlefield using just the sorts of odds and ends that I would have had available when I was a kid. I then played out a small game of Drop Zone Commander. And what happened slightly surprised me. There were certainly times where I forgot that this was a box or the lid of a rattle can and just got stuck into the game and the strategy. But when I returned to the table that I normally use for Drop Zone Commander, there is a world of difference. I tried to go back, but the truth is it just doesn't work anymore. Scenery is too important for the type of wargaming that I love. Let me give you a few reasons why. Firstly, I absolutely love the addition of mats to the wargaming hobby. They completely transform a table. And if you buy one carefully, it can cover a whole host of games. So the one I've just shown you works great at 10mm, but just as well for any sci-fi at heroic scale too. Secondly, I think the quality of your painted minis is actually elevated when you give them a proper home. Here are some models I painted years ago, tabletop quality Gondorians and Dwarves. Give them a proper home, a suitable backdrop, and they look better. Thirdly, scenery is referred to in the rules for lots and lots of games, and let's be honest, it's a bit of a pain to try and remember which stand of books is a grove of trees and which is a hill. It's absolutely true that a beautiful but poorly written game is still no fun to play. The rules are crucial to a war game, of course they are. But if I'm honest with myself, I just don't get as excited about a game, even a brilliantly written one, if the battlefield doesn't inspire me. Scenery, even more than the models which dwell there, is what transports me to the world where the action is taking place. And if you think about the opening to a scene in a book, there's usually a description of the setting so that you can imagine where the action is occurring. Well, for us as wargamers, the tabletop is our setting. It's the world that we need to plunge into so that we can weave our stories with our imagination, with our toy soldiers, and with our dice. Often cruel dice. Finally, wargaming is a tactile experience. I want people there with me. I want rule books to leaf through. I want minis to hold. And I want a great battlefield to play my game. In fact, I'm so convinced of the importance of scenery that I would say next time you've got some spare cash and you're thinking about buying another unit of models, consider getting some scenery instead. I think that the same models can feel quite different. A game can feel new and refreshed if you add some new scenery to your battlefield. For me, it's absolutely key. But that's just my opinion. You might disagree with me completely, and I'll be very interested to read your thoughts in the comments. Please tell me what you think. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If so, please consider hitting the like or subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon, and until then, keep rolling.